My name is Philip Driscoll. My mother's family is from Newport. My mother's maiden name was Murphy. Her parents were a Murphy and a Shea. On the Murphy side, her grandfather came to this country probably as part of the famine, and somehow got a job on Bellevue Avenue as a head gardener at an estate that we knew as the Whitney Estate, which is opposite Bancroft Avenue. And in those days, in the 40s and 50s, you would go around the Ocean Drive on Sunday for recreation and entertainment, and as we came down Bellevue Avenue, across from Bancroft, the gardener's cottage was always pointed out to us. It was indelible in our mind of where my grandfather was born. My great-grandfather being, my mother referred to it as the superintendent on the estate. He was the head gardener. Let's place it in perspective. And in that house, there were about 7 children that were born there. Somewhat ironic is down on Casey Court, at the end of Casey Court, there's a little red home, which is referred to, I think, as the Little Red Schoolhouse, where my grandfather went to school. When I would visit that house, they pointed out that that little desk over there may have been his desk. This was in the late 40s or maybe early 50s. At any rate, that house is not there anymore, okay? We'll get to that part of it. And it's been moved around the corner onto Ruggles Avenue. So as you go north from the corner of Bancroft and Bellevue, make a right onto Ruggles. The house is on the left-hand side. My recollection is it was called Arbor Lee, okay? Kind of an interesting thing of how did somebody immediately from Ireland get a job on Bellevue Avenue, okay? Well, I believe the name of the house was The Reef, and I looked it up online last night, and I've read about it before. My mother always said the Stevens family from Boston owned it, but that does not appear in what I was able to look up. It was then sold to the Whitneys of New York fame and Vanderbilt fame, etc. It burned down in about 1940 or 38, 42, something like that. That is, you can look that up online. And by that time, my great-grandfather was dead, and his son was the superintendent, okay? And some of the other family members had worked on it, on the estate. In those days, those estates had dozens of people working on them, particularly outside. Today it's all mechanized, of course, and they have a contractor there. But at any rate, it was considered to be rather prestigious. And it also was very, very profitable in some fashion, because from an immigrant Irishman who ended up on an estate in Newport, he was able to build multiple houses. My mother's mother was a Shea, okay? My mother was a nursery school teacher, and she applied to be work for WPA as the state supervisor of nursery educations. In order for her to get the job, she had to get the approval of the local political boss. My grandmother said, "You're not taking the job." My mother did get the job. I don't know the rest of that sort of story. Okay, my father, his first wife, had severe depression. He came here with his wife, and she was at Butler Hospital and died. He had a man working for him who was my mother's brother, and he introduced the two of them. The thing that was kind of interesting was my father was 59 years old or something like that, and my mother was 29. And there was a 30-year, and my mother in later life admitted that I was not planned. because I came along, I had to get assisted too, so I have assisted. But I think that's interesting. Your mother, she's well into her 90s, would tell you that you weren't planned. At any rate, they had a very, very happy marriage, okay. My mother lived a long time without my father. Both of them went into their 90s. So at any rate, they got me to college, and after college, I got in the Navy, and I went to officer candidate school, and then supply corps school, which is here now, and that gave me a pretty good resume. And I was able to get into General Electric. It was almost like getting into college. In those days, General Electric was very, very well thought of, and had for a number of years. And eventually I ended up at a company called Pearson Yachts out in Portsmouth.